Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday morning service from the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Laguna Beach. My name is Pamela Floodman, and I will be serving as your worship associate for today. Each Sunday, anywhere there is a service held in a Unitarian Universalist congregation, a chalice is lit. The chalice is the only symbol that we have of our faith. Our chalice will be lit this morning by Deidre Reed. And I am so delighted that Deidre has agreed to light our chalice this morning. Deidre has been an active participant in the recent discussions that we have been having in our congregation during our Wednesday night at the movie series, which has been focused on racial justice. In these discussions, Deidre often takes the role of pushing us to think about action, what we can do to make a difference. And this has really led to important and I think powerful discussion. I always very much appreciate hearing Deidre's thoughtful questions, so I'm very grateful that she's agreed to light our chalice today. If you have a candle at home, you may wish to light it with us now. Our chalice lighting words this morning are written by Crystal Hogan, who is a member of the Neshoba Unitarian Universalist Church. We ignite this flame, symbol of our faith, to beckon us into community, warm our hearts with love, and give us a light to follow as we carry our faith into action. So thank you, Deidre, for lighting our chalice this morning. Again, welcome to all who have joined us at UUFLB for worship this morning. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever it is that has brought you to join us in worship today, it is the right reason to be here. We unconditionally welcome all of you to this community of mutual caring and of serious intent to grow as spiritual and moral beings. Our fellowship is served by our minister, Reverend Lee Sanchez, who provides leadership and support for our faith community at UUFLB. Reverend Lee Marie leads our service once a month, is together with us on other Sundays to join us in worship, and also in many other events, meetings, and discussions throughout every week. Our fellowship depends on the love and the generous contributions from our members. And today I would like to say a huge thank you to our members who are making it possible to hold our Zoom at noon discussion group, especially to Paul Bogdan, who hosts the Zoom at noon group each week on Fridays. Paul, your generosity in devoting your time as a host is a great example of the many ways that we can work together to maintain community and to make a difference in our world. So thank you very much, Paul. I also want to make a brief announcement about the Wednesday night at the movie series, which will continue this coming Wednesday evening at 6:30 p.m. with the documentary film 13. This film, directed by Ava DuVernay, explores the intersection of race, justice, and mass incarceration in the United States. And following the film, we will have a post-movie discussion, which I know for many is one of the very valuable parts of our Wednesday evenings. I was very sorry last week to miss our Wednesday night at the movies, but I'm looking forward to joining the group again this week. I think this film and discussion series is providing us with a really valuable opportunity to learn from each other, to collaborate on effective action. So I do want to thank Dawn and our many other members who are making this movie series possible. Now, one of the reasons I was especially disappointed to miss last week's Wednesday night movie was because of the film, which was chosen. It was titled Walking While Black, Love is the Answer. And today we are especially honored to welcome the director, A.J. Ali, to UUFLB as our guest speaker. I had the chance to meet A.J. very briefly several weeks ago when he joined us for service, and also yesterday morning during our dry run practice for today. And I know we're incredibly lucky to have the opportunity to hear from A.J. today. A.J. Ali is a director, producer, writer, host, actor, and has published hundreds of newspaper and magazine articles, as well as several books, one of which is a book that is the theme for today's service, Love is the Answer. Those who attended Wednesday night at the movies, this week were astounded by his powerful movie. And links to the movie and to AJ's books are in the e-blasts for today's service, if you want to discover more. AJ has also founded 2 pro soccer teams, has used his expertise and his various relationships in sports and entertainment to raise more than $30 million for charities nationwide. He is a service-disabled veteran who served in the United States Air Force. And he and his wife, Jane, have been married for 25 years and have 3 adult children and 5 grandchildren. So today we will be hearing from AJ about the pledge that is captured in the 4 letters of the word love. And we'll learn a lot more about this later in the service. What really struck me in AJ's description of the service is his observation that love requires action. People are dying, lives are being ruined unnecessarily, and I know we're also very aware of that in this moment. AJ's endgame is to help to dismantle systemic racism and division in all of its forms. So today, AJ will be walking us through what it really means to put love into action. To start our exploration this morning, please join me in reading together our centering thought. As we read together, I invite you to deeply listen and reflect on the meaning of these words during this challenging time. As we go forward into this frightening, exhilarating, confusing, miraculous world, may we offer our comfort to the afflicted. May we offer our comfort to the afflicted, our love to those who are lonely, our help to those in need, and our wish for all to be safe. So now I invite you all to enjoy our opening hymn with music provided by our talented music director, Carol Cole. This is a hymn familiar to many of us, written by Jason Shelton, and known to most of us by its original title, Standing on the Side of Love. What you may not know is that several years ago, Jason Shelton chose to make a change in the words to the hymn. After learning that some of his colleagues and others had a really deep concern about the title of the hymn. These colleagues pointed out the title did not acknowledge the experience of those who were not physically able to stand on the side of love. So this hymn is now often sung with the words answering the call of love. But today we will be singing another variation on the words, joining on the side of love. Our words matter, and the meaning of these words remains even in a new form. And this hymn really seems to me to be so very relevant for today's service. So if you are inspired, and even though you are muted, please join us now in singing together with Carol from home.
Every soul must read home. The truth is
Thank you so much, Carol. So now, as we gather from our homes for worship, let us take a moment to remind ourselves why we come together as a community. I invite you to read these words together when and if it feels right for you. Now, Dawn is unmuting the microphones. Joining our voices together this morning really is a powerful act, even though we may not be as coordinated in reading together as we usually are when we can be together at UUFLB. The words of the unison affirmation are now up on your screens, and please join me in reading. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love, service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, this community, and to each other. Thank you all. Our opening words this morning are written by two Unitarian Universalist ministers, Reverend John Burens and Reverend Rebecca Parker. And this reading is entitled, Hope Rises. Hope rises. It rises from the heart of life here and now, beating with joy and sorrow. Hope longs. It longs for good to be affirmed, for justice and love to prevail, for suffering to be alleviated, and for life to flourish in peace. Hope remembers. It remembers the dreams of those who have gone before and reaches for connection with them across the boundary of death. Hope acts. It acts to bless, to protest, and to repair.
Gallery view. Like that over
there. So we have now come to a time in our service to briefly share the important events that have touched our lives in the past week. We value this fellowship as a sharing community where our joys are amplified, and as a caring community where our sorrows are lessened. During this time of sharing spoken joys and sorrows, Dawn will be pausing the recording of the service. Well, thank you all for sharing your joys and your sorrows. And I think of the sorrows, I think all of us know of people either directly connected with us or closely connected to those who are close of us who are dealing with the health issues, the pain of some of the events of what's going on currently. And our hearts are with all of you, as well as the mixture then of the joy of being able to care for each other, of being able to celebrate birthdays and anniversaries and upcoming weddings and the entry of new life at the San Diego Zoo, you know, mixed in with our sorrows, and all of these mixed together. So let us hold all of these joys and the concerns of our congregation, both those that are spoken and those that are unspoken. We'll hold them in our hearts and minds in the coming week as we remember that we truly can give strength to one another as we share our joys and as we work to lighten each other's burdens within the circle of community. It is as much a blessing to be able to give as it is to receive. In this self-governing and self-sustaining community, we recognize that it is a responsibility to do both, and it's a responsibility for us to do both well. So during this time, while we're gathering from our homes, our caring and generous community continues to be empowered by the innumerable gifts of those who join in covenant with us. And this includes the gift of financial contribution, which allows the fellowship to meet its financial commitments and to make a difference in the world. All of our gifts generously given, service, trust, collaboration, patience, humor, passion, curiosity, our time. All of these are needed for this fellowship and for its continued good work in the world. So the information on your screen provides two ways in which you can give, either electronically on the left or by sending a check to the fellowship. And the address for that is on the right. This information is also available in the email message, which you received with the link to join the service this morning. So we encourage all to remember the needs and the joy of giving during this time. Now, I'm going to invite you to please settle comfortably in your chair. You may want to close your eyes, place your feet squarely on the floor beneath you, and feel connected to the earth. Let your hands rest quietly. Breathe deeply. And as you breathe deeply, allow your shoulders to relax. Follow your breath as you breathe in and breathe out. In and out. Together, we will share a few moments of silent meditation. Now, please slowly open your eyes as we come together and join in welcoming our guest speaker this morning, AJ Ali. As I mentioned earlier, in addition to hearing from AJ this morning, we have so many other opportunities to explore and really engage with the topics that AJ is bringing with us today because of his books and the movie. And again, there are links which Rachel sent out together with the message about this service that we may want to explore afterwards. But for now, what I'd just like to do is thank you so much, AJ, for sharing your thoughts and for being with us in worship this morning.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all of you at UUFLB for having me. I'm a member of Acts Church in Santa Monica, Pastor Joe Matoyer there, and so I bring you greetings from Santa Monica. You know, I'm going to talk with you about love today. And let's see here, there's the very last slide. If you could go to that, the very last slide, if that's possible. Love, as we're talking about today, it can be many things. It can be a noun, it can be a noun modifier, it can be an adjective, it can be an adverb, it can be a verb. And the power of love comes when it's a verb. You know, Peggy shared about, you know, there we go. It's up on the screen, you know, putting love into action in the community. 3 things that will last forever: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love, from 1 Corinthians 13:13. Peggy shared about celebrating life. That was love in action. That was, it makes me want to pick a holiday and just start celebrating it, no matter what the day of the week or month it is. Carol sang joining on the side of love. And joining is, you know, it requires action, right? You've got to do something. And then the opening song, the lyrics, the world won't get no better if we just let it be. The world won't get no better. We got to change it. Just you and me. Putting it into action, moving to make things better, taking that love and transforming it from a noun or an adjective into an action verb, something that can move mountains. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. So aloha, everybody. I'm going to bring you some love. If I was with you, I'd put a lei around your neck and wish you a wonderful day with some aloha spirit. So we live in a complicated world, and that's why love is so necessary, so important. If we can go down just go down to the slides. I'll let you. There we go. Keep on going down. That's the film and the book. We talk about love in that we have partnerships around the country that we put into action with many national organizations and many more local organizations putting love into action. Next slide. And something that gets in the way of love sometimes is not saying, I'm sorry. Something that gets in the way of love sometimes is not saying these words, please forgive me. This slide that you're looking at, the 4 steps of Ho'oponopono, which is the ancient Hawaiian art practice of reconciliation. These are 4 steps that we can use to put love into action. And I wanted to share this with you today because I want to give you some practical advice, things that I try to put into action every day. I have to keep reminding myself to live out love. You know, when my brother passed away in 1998 of cancer, he was 48 years old. His last words he said were, "Love is the answer." He whispered those words in my ear. And so since then, I have tried my best to live that out. And it's not easy all the time. In fact, it's quite hard to do sometimes because we live in a complicated world. And so when I mess up, when I fall short, I try to go back to those principles of Ho'oponopono. And you know, it's hard to say sometimes, but it means all the difference in the world when you can say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. You know, showing that appreciation for their time, their heart, you know, I love you, reminding people that you care for them. And many times in the conversations I've had with police and community members these days, because my work revolves around that discussion of race, of systemic racism and police brutality and the divide between police and the Black community. And I encourage people, I implore people to use those words. I'm sorry, please forgive me. And it's so hard for people to do. There's so many barriers that come up, that whether it's pride or whether it's anger or any number of things can get in the way of that. But I just want to share with you today that trust me on that. You know, in my bio, it was a little bit outdated. It was shared that, you know, I've been married 25 years. I've been married actually 26 years and 2 months now. And I'm telling you that that's amazing, because I don't deserve to be so happy, so full of joy now, but I am through grace, because my wife has put up with a lot, putting up with me. 26 years and 2 months is nothing to sneeze at. She deserves a medal. I can't even count the number of times I've had to say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And you know, if we could do just that with people, the world would be in so much of a better place. And I know that, you know, you at UUFLB, that's a tongue twister. I know that you do that. I can just tell from spending some time with you that in your heart, love is there and love flows out, and relationships are so important that you don't mind saying those words. That in fact, it's something that you would jump at to be in reconciliation, with someone. But sometimes it's hard, and we got to remind each other how important that is. We live in a complicated world. Let's go to that slide with that young man and that peace officer. I want to give you an image of Devonte Hart when he was 12 years old, and he was sharing a hug with Sergeant Brett Barnum at a Ferguson rally in 2014. And I want you to look in the eyes of that young man. That photo went around the world. A lot of people thought that that was just a story of a young man reaching out to a peace officer in desperation for the situation that was going on in the world in Ferguson and other parts of the country. But unfortunately, the story went deeper than that. It wouldn't be found out until 4 years later, when in March of 2018, Jennifer Hart drove her 6 adopted children and her wife Sarah off of a jagged Pacific Coast cliff to their deaths. 6 adopted children. And back in 2014, that young man was certainly shaken from the events of this country and racism, but there was also something else going on. And during that time, he and his siblings had been crying out for help. And in like many households that suffer from mental illness or domestic violence or other things that child abuse, they weren't able to get that help. And so when that young man reached out with tears of desperation in his eyes to a peace officer and couldn't mouth the words of what was going on in that household, all we saw was that moment, but we didn't see the backstory of this complicated world. And so I just want to let you know how important it is, this love thing, this making love into an action verb, that we can't be passive about it. There's too much at stake. We have to get to know the people around us in a deeper way. We can't play around with this love. This is not the time for that. We're not promised tomorrow. We won't always have time to say those words. I love you. I remember so vividly when my brother passed away, and my father he had been there in the hospital with us, and he had walked out for a bit, and he came back in, and when he came in, I had to break the news to him that Abby was gone. And I'll never forget the words that he said. The first words he said were, I never got the chance to tell him how much I loved him. Abby was 48 years old when he passed away. Now, my father had certainly told him that he loved him, but theirs was a tumultuous relationship. There were a lot of ups and downs. And I know that he just wanted one more chance to tell him how much he cared about him, how much he loved him, how much he meant to him. So we can't take it lightly. We've got to take this thing seriously. So I want to break it down for you a little bit. And I want to use some examples from police, because, I am a Black man in America, and I've had my share of being stopped by police. And that's the reason why I made the film Walking While Black, for walking in my own community and being stopped and feeling like that was going to be the last day of my life. But I want to tell you, it's not all bad. And I want to just walk through that journey with you a little bit. That first letter in love, love is the answer, is an acronym. It's learn. Learn about the people in your community. You know, what makes them tick. And, you know, I think about a guy named Doug Woodhams of the Santa Monica Police Department. He's also a Marine. Doug and I, when we first met, I was in, along with my wife Jane, we were in a class to learn about the inner workings of the Santa Monica Police Department, and Doug came in to talk about terrorism. That was his specialty, and so every Wednesday for 3 hours we'd learn about different things, and Doug walked in to talk about terrorism, and he and I didn't agree on a couple of the things that were covered because I felt like there should have been more content on white supremacists and other forms of terrorism in that regard in America, but his talk mostly focused on terrorism from other countries. And so we butted heads a little bit. And so we could have left it there, as many people do, especially on social media. When you don't agree with someone, you just shut them down. That's what we do today, right? We don't have to ever see them again. We don't have to talk with them again. We just shut them down. But Doug and I, to his credit, you know, we didn't do that. I said, we gotta talk about this. And he was reluctant at first, but he, you know, finally we got together. We broke bread. We had breakfast, and we got to learn about each other. And we finally, you know, came to this place where not only did we become friends, but we became brothers. We learned about each other. And the next time I heard him talk about terrorism, he focused in on some of those things that I had suggested, and it made my heart warm. But I also learned some things about him, and so I incorporated some of those things I learned about him and his walk into what I do when I'm talking with people about in the community about why we should care about those who are peace officers, who are doing what they do to protect us. Doug Woodhams, a peace officer, a U.S. Marine. Open is that next word, open your heart. That O stands for open your heart to the needs of the people in your community. And two people that I'm thinking about right now are two other cops. And I'm sharing stories with you about 4 cops, 2 black, 2 white. All of them served in the military too, so that we got that in common ground. Robbie Williams, who heads up Coffee with a Cop, he's with the Hawthorne Police Department. Derek Jacobs, he goes by DJ. He was in the Navy, and he's with Santa Monica PD. And both Robbie and Derek, they've meant a lot to me, because when they found out that I was a veteran, and as we got to know each other, and I would, you know, share some things with them about some of the things that I go through with PTSD, both of them said, you know, you should go to the VA. This was a couple of years ago, and I followed their advice, and I did, and I've been able to get some help that I need. They opened their heart to me and made a tremendous difference in my life, just by sharing that they cared, just by sharing that that there was help available. They didn't have to do that, especially, you know, for a guy who's you know, very critical when the police are doing bad things, but they also saw the work that I was doing to be a reconciler, to bring people together. And that's what they did for me. They brought me into a space where I could get help that I needed. And if I hadn't opened my heart up to them, to care about them, maybe I would have blocked a blessing that came my way. That V, volunteer yourself to be part of the solution in someone's life. There's a guy by the name of Jacob Holloway, and he is with the Santa Monica Police Department. And when I met him, he was on the homeless liaison team. And I just marveled at how he had relationships with people, how he talked with people as if they were family members, people that were in some cases doing crimes, in some cases coming up to him and admitting that they had just done some drugs. And he wouldn't slam anyone against the car door. he would treat them with love like they were family members, and get them help that they needed. I did a couple of ride-alongs with him early on, and I'm telling you, he would treat people like they were his brothers and sisters, and nieces and nephews, aunties and uncles. He volunteered himself to be part of the solution in their life. He put love into action. And that final letter, that E, empower others to do the same. That's what I'm asking you to do today, to learn about people, to open your heart to their needs, to volunteer yourself to be part of the solution in their life, to put love into action every day with every person that you meet. And when it comes to systemic racism, there are people that are trying to pass laws. I got to tell you, though, many of those laws that they're trying to pass are already on the books and have been on the books for decades. So laws aren't going to change much. What happens from the heart will. If we put love into action, that's what will make things change. That's what will make things better. And so I just want to encourage you. I want to implore you, going back to those words from that song, the world won't get no better if we just let it be. We got to change it. Just you and me. Let's put love into action, y'all. Let's do that today, because love is the answer. That's my message. And that's the pledge that you see up on the screen now. That I'd love to ask you to take it with me. Just pledge to learn about the people in your community, to unconditionally open your heart to their needs, as if we were immediate family members, as if I was your brother. To volunteer yourself to be part of the solution in both good and challenging times, right? To empower everyone that you meet to do the same, as if your lives depended on it. That's where it's at. We created this little Kona the love dog that you saw there as a reminder to people, and her story is going to be told in some children's books and other things. And I just love the graphic that Todd Goodman, a good man, created with Kona the love dog, the multicolored, rainbow-colored bulldog, a Hawaiian bulldog, we call her. Bulldogs are tenacious and they're loyal, and they love you so much they slobber all over you with that love. And that's what we need to be like. Kona is going to be a reminder to that. So if you can just kind of let that image, burn into your mind, just let that sit there. And that's what we need to be like as we live out these love is the answer principles. So I want to close with this. I love you, and I want the best for you. And the way we get there, as individuals, as partners, as community members, as leaders, and we all lead in some capacity, is through that love, putting that love into action. And I want to thank you for allowing me to speak today, and I appreciate you so much. And I look forward to doing life with you and spreading that love with you.
Oh, thank you so much, AJ, for being here this morning, for talking with us, for sharing your thoughts, for worshiping with us. And I want to remind everyone, you've also agreed to stay a little bit after the service. We have our virtual cafe time after the service. And I think, there'll be important discussion there as well, and thoughts about ways that we can work with you and live out the pledge that you've talked with us about this morning. So again, thank you so much for being here. Now is the time for us to extinguish our chalice within our homes. My daughter Dara is extinguishing our chalice for us. We extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the worth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. The closing words that I chose for today are written by Andrea Hawkins Camper, who is a ministerial intern at the UU Congregation of the Quad Cities in Davenport, Iowa. So she's just starting out on the impact she can have. And here are the words that Andrea wrote. May we see all as it is, and may we be the ones to make it as it should be. For if not us, who? If not now, when? This is a cry of justice within the work of peace. This is redeeming the pain of history with the grace of wisdom. This is the work we are called to do, and this is the call we answer now, to be the barrier and the bridge, to be the living embodiment of our principles, to be about the work of building a beloved community, to be a people of intention and a people of conscience. So now let us join together in singing with Carol, again, muted from our homes, but singing together our closing song, Let There Be Peace on Earth.